Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon, broadcasting out of the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California with United Broadcasting Network. And then every Saturday at 2 on my syndicated CNBC NBC News Radio channel KCAA. That's AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and on demand everywhere that iHeartRadio is. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk at all, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So if you missed any of my interviews with fabulous guests like New York Times bestselling author Neil Donald Walsh, Marianne Williamson, to Marianne from Gilligan's Island, Don Wells, Potsy from Happy Days, Anson Williams, Corey Feldman from Stand By Me and Gremlins, Muhammad Ali's daughter Layla Ali, please go to my free subscribe YouTube channel and you'll get those shows, again, splattering more hope and happiness over you. So my guest today, and the best way, and I think you have to turn that just the other way. There we go. The best way to introduce him is to read his own words. Aloha. Great to meet you. My name is Joby. I'm too blessed to be depressed. I have a super cool family, an awesome wife, and a wonderful career interacting with audiences in over 100 countries around the world. I'm currently working to get everyone off the grid, off of pharmaceutical drugs, and using Bitcoin. For the last 18 years, I've been working on creating a team of social entrepreneurs committed to wiping out global malnutrition, which kills 5 million orphans a year, or 14,000 kids a day. We teach people how they can easily help us end this needless suffering and death without asking them for a dime in donations. Oh, and by the way, he was a millionaire at age 19, but he doesn't talk about that in his own words. Please welcome to my studio today, Joby Weeks.
Hey, aloha. Good to see you.
Wonderful.
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Marissa.
Absolutely. And I am just delighted to have you. I heard you speak at another one of Ryan Long's fabulous City Summit talks, and you were actually the stand-in because the regular speaker's a parent had died. And I'll tell you, you had all of us on edge listening for the next thing that you have to say. I rarely tape all the like everything that a speaker says. I would do like a minute and then I shut it off. But you kept talking and I went, oh no, I got to tape this. Oh no, I have to tape this. So I don't even know where to start. Okay, so let's start with the fact that you were 19 and a millionaire. So how the heck did that happen? I think that's a good story.
Well, I started at 14. I started before that, being an entrepreneur. My father was a Christian school teacher, so we grew up without any kind of money. He only made about $20,000 a year, and so that was difficult for us. And so, always going to yard sales and Goodwill and Salvation Army, we figured out that we needed to have supplemental income, and so I would go and mow lawns and shovel snow and go sell candy bars door to door, etc. Figuring out that profits were better than wages. And I read some books. I read Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Tom Hopkins and Big Al Tom Schneider and Jed and Jerry Clark and, of course, Robert Kiyosaki's books, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, and Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. The one that got me the most was Retire Young, Retire Rich. And I thought, well, at least people are like giving us, kind of the steps on how to do this. Imagine life being like a football game. I mean, you need to know what the rules to the game are. You need to know about the end zone and the how to get a first down, etc. And not a lot of us are taught these things in school. And so because of that, a lot of people are struggling through life because they never learned the rules to the game.
Right.
And once you understand the idea that profits are better than wages, that that passive residual income is what you want to be focused on creating, that's money that you make while you're sleeping, then all you want to do is focus on those types of activities, because the whole idea of trading time for money doesn't work. It won't get you free, because there's a limit to how much time that you have. All of us have the same amount of time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so the idea of leverage, really got me excited. And so that's kind of where I started at 14 years old. And by 19, I was pretty wealthy, and I decided to take off and go travel the world. I went to over 100 countries and met some interesting people in conferences and kept networking, and the rest is history.
Right. And then 19, you skipped over that pretty quick. So we know you had the foundation to think about profits, think about passive income. What was the project that this is interesting too? Because it's not just
my uncle's a doctor, and so he and his buddies they made a discovery that, well, it's not really rocket science. Everybody gets a new body every 7 years. The cells constantly replicate, making new organs and making new tissues and systems, and you get a new body every 7 years. There's not a cell in your body that's older than 7. And so, they figured, okay, well, what is disease? What is the aging process? Because my grandfather, he's 95 years old, but his body is only 7 years old. So that kind of is mind-blowing to me. I'm like, well, okay, so let's study why we age.
Yeah.
And they found that when your cells are healthy, then your tissues are healthy, then the organs are healthy, then your systems are healthy, then you have a healthy body.
There you go.
All disease and wellness is a cellular event, and that's the goal. So what do cells need? Cells need to be fed and cleansed and regulated and defended and repaired. They need to communicate correctly. So sorry about that. When other people call me from other apps on my phone, it cuts off Zoom.
Okay, no worries.
So if that happens again, I'll just keep ignoring it. But it's just one of those. And I do get a lot of phone calls. Sorry, that was a WhatsApp call versus a regular telephone call. Anyways, so the idea is the cells have to be fed, they have to be cleansed, they have to be regulated, they need to be defended and repaired, and they need to communicate correctly. And so when you balance the cell, then the cell is healthy, then your tissues are healthy, then the organs are healthy, then your systems are healthy, then your body is healthy. And so that's how you get people well. People that are healthy can stay healthy, and people that are sick can get healthy. And so they created an actual powder that's the raw materials needed to replicate the human body. So they got the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and glyconutrients and phytosterols, the digestive enzymes and probiotics, your essential oils and fatty acids, everything you need to create a new body. And so we started selling that, and we created a website, and the internet was just coming out, and all of a sudden it started to boom. And we set up offices in Tokyo and Sydney and London and Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Africa. It was really cool. I got to travel the world. The company went public, and it's still listed. The ticker symbol is MTEX. The company's name is Manatech, and it's still rocking and rolling. And they even created a way to give this nutrition away for free. They started a charity. Sam Castor and his wife Linda started a charity called Mana Relief, and a wonderful charity. And the idea was to, instead of asking people for money, do a donations through consumption model, kind of like how Tom's Shoes works. Mm-hmm. And so anytime you buy the product for yourself, we donate that same amount of product to an orphan fighting malnutrition. Beautiful. And so the goal, right, to link 5 million consumers with 5 million children and then wipe out malnutrition, which is a huge problem, as you were talking about. I mean, 20,000 kids a day die from malnutrition. It's really a sad thing.
Right.
And So the philosophy, buy one, but nourish two.
That's awesome. And that's why you're on my show, not because you became a millionaire at 19 and I wanted to find out why, although that's part of it. But the real reason is I love your pure link between let's get rich and let's use the money to remedy or be part of the solution as a planetary citizen. And I love that's my, that's right up my life alley. And so that's why I was excited to have you come on, because you really make me understand why disruptive technology, which sounds like a bad thing, is really a good thing. And I know this was never a topic that I ever thought that I would become interested in, or, that was going to be part of my spiel. But the universe, my friendly universe, I call him my UPS man, my universal power source, who delivers every morning when I pray and meditate, has decided, by linking me with Eric Tippett's and NASGO, and that's the cryptocurrency and blockchain, and then you, in that order, I'm now really understanding the opportunity and the wide open opportunities that we have as humankind. So let's shift a bit to that. Although before I shift, is that the product that the girl who had a brain tumor took and then was cured? Was that the product, or was it a different product?
Well, we're not allowed to use the word treat, cure, mitigate, or prevent any disease. In America, it's funny. You can't even say water cures dehydration.
Right.
Or vitamin C cures scurvy.
Yes.
Even though everybody knows all scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency. When you add it back in, your scurvy goes away. It's the same as like rickets or beriberi. So, that's what got us in trouble, was so many positive testimonials of people with MS and lupus and diabetes and arthritis and allergies and asthma and cancer and all this stuff. They all started telling all their friends. And, of course, the FDA and the pharmaceutical cartel does not want people to use anyone else's drugs but their own.
Yeah.
And when you have a natural, non-toxic pharmaceutical grade product that has no side effects, then you can't, make it a drug. If you can't kill something, it can't become FDA approved. And doctors can't recommend it because their malpractice insurance only covers standard of care, which are these deadly, debilitating, destructive, addictive, and toxic pharmaceutical drugs. So no one ever hears about it. It's a really sad thing. And there's a lot of needless suffering out there that doesn't have to be this way if people just knew the right questions to ask. All the answers are found on the internet, and I'm happy to go into it more deeply in another time. But yeah, we segmented into blockchain because the internet came out, and they say blockchain is this new Internet of Things, or the Internet 2.0, where we can actually transfer assets across the internet. And what kind of got us excited is, when you have people buying wellness products in Hong Kong and they're using Hong Kong dollars, and then you got people in Europe paying with euros, and Japan, they're paying with yens, and South Africa, they're paying with rands, and Canada, they're paying with loonies. You're trying to pay out commissions, and we took in the money in rands, but we're paying commissions out in dollars. And it wasn't, we were losing over $1 million a year just on the Forex exchange.
Wow.
And so when I found out that we could actually pay people with one push of the button with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, which was the first cryptocurrency, it became really exciting because we didn't have to deal with the banks and the fees and all that stuff. There are 5 billion people out there that don't have bank accounts. Imagine that. 5 billion people don't have bank accounts. And their countries have basically been blocked by the banking cartel. And that's why we have poverty. They can't trade. You go to a lot of these places, which I have been now. I've been to over 150 countries now. And it's exciting. We can set them up with a Bitcoin wallet that takes 30 seconds to do, and have them instantly moving money and doing business with people all around the world because of the internet.
Yes.
And there's no chargebacks, and it's you basically become your own bank.
Yes.
And for the banking cartel, of course, that's a scary thing.
Yes.
But for all 5 billion of the rest of us, it's a very exciting thing because it means freedom.
Yes.
And freedom is what I'm all about. That's my number one value, is helping free people from pharmaceuticals, free people from the banking cartel so they don't have to be debt slaves, free people from the oil cartel, get them off the grid, driving around in Teslas and generating their own electricity. So, I see this vision of this wonderful world of peace and prosperity and freedom, and we can have it if we want, if enough people get behind the vision and the mission, which I know it's going to be a lifelong project. But, we can get incredibly wealthy at the same time, because all of those are $1 trillion businesses. If you look at how much money just Western Union and MoneyGram make on transaction fees, I mean, you don't need to use them anymore. We have cryptocurrency now and blockchain. So
Yes.
It's just getting people educated, showing them, taste it, touch it, feel it. This is how you set up a wallet, kind of walk them through the process. And then when that happens, it's only natural that they just use that instead. It's so much faster and cheaper and more secure.
Absolutely. And if you're wondering who I am talking today about money and Bitcoin and currency, it is Joby Weeks. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, and splattering more hope and happiness in a large way with this week's guest, Joby Weeks, who is really helping understand that it's not a new, fatty, get in on the bottom kind of multi-level marketing scheme, which has been sort of the fear factor anytime someone talks about, at least for me, cryptic currency instead of cryptocurrency. It's confusing, and it sort of, and I think I'm pretty average that way. And so I kind of go, it'll pass, or this isn't. But having you, this is why I wanted you on here, is having you explain that this truly is not about, or it is about, but it's way more than just making money. It is truly freedom, as you said, the value of freedom, and freeing us from the traditional BS, the belief systems that the only way to be happy is to have a great job or a great, a nice house and a nice car and, enough money to retire. And that's all BS. It's a system that we grew up with, go to a good school, get I call it the American dream. And now it's the American nightmare, right? You have a job you hate, or, you don't have enough money to raise your children, or your children are on drugs, or, your parents are ill. And that all is the average experience that many, many Americans are having. So it's not surprising that 1 out of 4 are taking pharmaceuticals, anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication. And as you said, there are side effects, and, they're dangerous side effects now, which is why my book is doing well, I think, because it's an inside out thing. And I absolutely agree that it's time for us to expand or disrupt that BS. And Joby's model just totally resonated with me when I heard about it. And so that's why he's here. So just in case you wanted to know. So that's what went on in my head. So the people that don't have bank accounts, the countries that don't have, that have been excluded from our banking system, which in the old days, right, the BS was put your money in the bank because that's safe, and invest in stocks and bonds because that's or real estate. All of that has gone away. The marketing collapse, the real estate collapse, banks going under, all of that. If that isn't enough to say, hey, wake up. This old BS isn't working. So this crypto blockchain is a system that allows people to exchange and money energy for goods, right?
Correct. Well, it's more than that too, because think about this. I mean, 2 billion people don't have birth certificates or passports or driver's licenses. I mean, they can't even exist. They can't really prove they exist. I mean, they exist obviously, but in terms of capitalism, which is freedom, the first step is property ownership, getting some skin in the game, and being able to capitalize on creating income. For instance, if you go down to Bali and you try to buy a house there in Indonesia, you know, they'll say, well, there's a nice field there to the tree and that fence, and this field's been in our family for the last 100 years and it's ours, but they don't have title to it. And so it makes it very difficult to monetize trillions of dollars of assets that are just locked up. Hernando de Soto explains it pretty clearly in a book called The Mystery of Capital, and explains how, like, when real estate, like a lot of people, if they want to get a loan, even here in the United States, what do they have as collateral? They've got their real estate or they got a car. But in other countries, they don't have any way to monetize that real estate because they don't have title and clear ownership and all that kind of stuff. So with blockchain, we can go into a country and put all the real estate ownerships and titles all on the blockchain. It's this distributed ledger that allows us to transfer an asset across the internet without having to go through a trusted third party. So we can put real estate up there. We can put automobiles up there, their titles. We can put diamonds and gold and barrels of oil and shipping containers and even votes on elections. Imagine, how the world would change if we had transparent, unhackable elections. I mean, that alone would change the world.
Hello, Florida.
And that's all possible with the blockchain, where we can take any asset and digitize it, tokenize it, put it on the blockchain, and then send it and transfer ownership. That's what I mean by sending it. Obviously, we don't have a particle accelerator to rip apart a piece of property and email it to you and have that house rebuild itself somewhere else around the world.
Right.
But in terms of clear title, I mean, we were down in Haiti the other day. I was with the Prime Minister of Haiti. He's a friend of mine, Laurent Lamouth. He has a foundation there, and they got hit with a hurricane. And I met him down at the blockchain summit with Richard Branson there at Necker Island. And so I learned about this earthquake that they had. We were helping fix the damage from the hurricane, but before that, there was an earthquake. And all the records that the country had for all the titles and who was paying taxes and who owned what and where, all gone. It was all in one building. The building collapsed and they lost everything. They lost all their records.
Oh, wow.
I mean, imagine it. But if they would have had it all on the blockchain, it wouldn't even matter, because all that information would all be backed up on thousands of computers around the world, this distributed ledger that, you would have to literally, to stop it and to reverse a transaction on the blockchain, you would have to literally kill the internet everywhere all at once. And I don't even know how you would do that. How would you turn off the internet in all the countries everywhere at once? I mean, you'd have to nuke everybody everywhere. And then they still have it up on the satellites. So it's something that they can't stop. And it's something that's really going to free humanity. And I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. So that is way more. I didn't understand. Now I understand. So someone had told me a long time when this first came out that blockchain and cryptocurrency was a way to ensure non-corruption or less corruption, because everybody knew a bit of the truth, or everybody knew the truth. And so even if one person lied, everybody else would know that it was a lie. So now I didn't get it then.
If I send to you a transaction of Bitcoin or a pair of glasses or a title to real estate, that transaction is then backed up on thousands of other computers. So even if some hackers got together and said, we want to say that, no, you didn't give me that real estate, or you didn't give me that Bitcoin or those sunglasses or whatever, they couldn't do it, because they would have to hack every single computer in the world that has a node that has the blockchain, which they can't do, because every 10 minutes that the algorithm changes again. Every 10 minutes, a new block is added to the blockchain, at least on the public blockchain or the Bitcoin blockchain, which is the most secure one.
Right. So this leads me to, and I'm usually a very positive person, but I'm a little afraid for you right now, because your disruption, or your ability to go into countries, to people who have no money traditionally, and they are staying on this land for generations and generations. And now you're saying this is your land. I can imagine a corrupt government going, whoa, that's our land, or these resources are the country's resource, and what right do you have? And I mean, is that not a they're already doing that. I mean, a new dictator takes over and he says, well, you're my loyal general and you can have this land. And it's already this old farmer's land, and he just gets kicked right off his farm. Right. And now the general gets it, and so
those are the people that are going to be against blockchain.
Yeah.
Evil people.
Yeah.
And so you'll know if people are evil based on whether they support it or not. If people don't support it, it just means that they're evil. Because why on earth would you want to stop something so good?
Right.
Well, why would you want to not free people? Why would you want there to still be, elections that can be hacked and that are not transparent? Why would you want to use all the paperwork? Imagine all the trees that get cut down for all this useless paperwork. We don't need any of that anymore.
Right.
Now that we have this technology, it's like going back to sending letters in the mail versus email.
Right, right. And we are changing the way the world works right here on the show. And it is time to thank the sponsors that make this show possible. So we'll be back with Joby Weeks and more incredibly new ways of looking at life, the world, about money, about freedom, and about becoming planetary citizens. We'll be right back in 2 and 2. Remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out. Do you experience chronic symptoms such as pain, low energy, bloating, headaches, and more that are impacting your ability to live life the way you always wish? Do you know a healthy diet that will help you but don't know where to begin? If so, you'll want to get Jenny Carr's international best-selling book, Piece of Cake, The Secret to Anti-Inflammatory Diet, which teaches you how to melt inflammation from your body without feeling overwhelmed or deprived. And as an added bonus, there are over 40 full-color recipes like cake, pizza, lasagna, cookies, and muffins and more. Anti-inflammatory style. Available everywhere books are sold. Want to wrap up your holiday shopping in one stop? Come to Timeless Treasures Boutiques December 6th through 9th and 13th through 22nd at the 6905 Warner Avenue location in Huntington Beach for unique, personalized gifts for everyone on your list. Free parking, admission, coffee, and access to over 100 artisans with unique and affordable arts and crafts for your home or gifting. More at timelesstreasuresboutiques.com. And we're back, and you are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Garage Studios in Hollywood, California with United Broadcasting Network, and then every Saturday at 2 p.m. on my syndicated CNBC NBC News Radio channel KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 160.5, and everywhere that iHeartRadio is. And today we are talking about freedom through blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and Joby Weeks is our docent, our guide through this new way of thinking about money, about the freedom that a system that uses the internet can make transparency, minimize corruption across the planet. And I just want to do an aside. You know, this is a guy, you mentioned your father made like very little, but you also came from a family whose generation before that made a lot through the same older system. And we're getting a click on the line. Do we know where that's coming from? Are you clicking?
I'm still here.
Cool. We're getting a big click.
Huh.
Is that you?
I don't know. I had my phone charging, but then
Okay.
I just unplugged it because maybe it's the electricity from the charge.
Oh, could be. Okay, so next. So how does a person who is like me get involved in this whole? Now, I have to say, put the moose on the table. They are calling it on the internet. There are some slams saying it's a Ponzi scheme, that this is a way to lose your money. So putting that moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of elephant in the room, how do you respond to those kinds of accusations?
Well, a lot of people use words that they don't know the definitions to. So, for instance, my cousin Daniel calls himself a progressive, but his philosophy is socialist, which causes death and destruction and starvation and poverty, which is regressive, but he calls himself a progressive. I have people that use terms like Ponzi scams, but then they're in the Social Security system, which if you look at the definition of what a Ponzi is, it's where you put a whole bunch of money in, hoping that the next generation will cover you. If you cover the elderly generation with your money, someone's going to come behind you and take care of you during your retirement, the next generation. And so that's where people can, I guess, justify getting their unborn children trillions of dollars in debt, which the Federal Reserve itself is a Ponzi scam. The Social Security system is a Ponzi scam. The stock market itself is a Ponzi scam. And these guys, and the reason I know is because you're right. My great-great-grandfather, John Wingate Weeks, was Secretary of War under Harding and Coolidge, and he was a senator. He was on the Monetary Commission. He signed the Federal Reserve Act with all of his banker buddies. His fund, was the military-industrial complex. It funded Boeing and Lockheed Martin. I mean, his son was Secretary of Commerce under Eisenhower. His name was Sinclair Weeks. It's my great-grandfather. And he was Secretary of Commerce and another senator. And so I grew up understanding how the Federal Reserve and these banks work, how they enslave people. There's two different types of schooling. There's public school for, the workers, and then there's the private school, Ivy League, for the owners. Mm-hmm. And they're taught different things.
Do you think they did this on purpose? Do you think the intent was to purposely have that have and have not? Do you think they actually did that as a purposeful, divisive, cruel intent?
Well, definitely some of the families did. The Rothschild family and the Rockefellers, for sure. I mean, if you look at how the Cancer Society was set up, the MA, and how the oil cartel got alcohol banned because they didn't want people growing their own fuel. They wanted them buying oil from Standard Oil and their pharmaceuticals. And they created and funded this whole public school system, this K through 12 grade, get the people smart enough so they can fill out forms and work jobs and trade time for money. And look, 100 years ago, 95% of the people worked for themselves. Only 5% of the people had jobs. Now come 100 years later after the Rockefellers take over, and what do we got? We got 95% of people are wage slaves working for the 5%. It's completely flipped. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that there is a sinister group of people, obviously some people call it a conspiracy, but no one actually knows what the definition of what that means either. But what I look at is, look, Bitcoin, and gold and silver and Federal Reserve notes, all this, it's energy. And that's why Bitcoin is money. That's why gold and silver is money, because it takes energy to go get gold and silver, to dig it out of the ground and to refine it, and rock crushers and furnaces and beautiful dyes and stamp it out to make a nice coin. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have to trust anybody that the work will be done, because the work has already been done. And that means that you're just trading energy, and it takes electricity to make Bitcoin. Now, what does it take to make $1? Well, dollar is just debt. Debt is money in the current fiat system. They say that the king's money is gold and the gentleman's money is silver, and the money of the slave is debt. And that's what everybody is working on right now and trading time for money for, is this fiat debt-based currency, these Federal Reserve notes, these dollars. Mm-hmm. And, it's a sad thing, because you can't pay debt with debt. Number one, you just discharge debt, but it's a mathematical impossibility to pay off the debt, because you can't pay principal plus interest if only principal exists. Mm-hmm. It's a game of musical chairs. I mean, it's like there's 12 people going after 10 chairs. The system is set up to guarantee foreclosures and bankruptcies, so they can reel the fishing line out, and then they can pull it back in. They lower the interest rates, and then the next day they're raising them again, so people have their foreclosures and all this kind of stuff. It's a sad thing, but it's all manipulated from the top so they can consolidate their wealth. It comes out of the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central bank of the world. And they deal with the IMF and the World Bank and the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England and all this. And then you have the corresponding banks underneath that. And then you've got the millions of little banks. There's only about 1,000 corresponding banks in the world. So if you wanted to send money from China to, St. Kitts, that money has to go from China through New York to St. Kitts. And a lot of these countries aren't being able to get their money. The money goes from China to New York, and the New York Fed just sits on the money for a month and then sends it back to China and says, sorry, St. Kitts. And so St. Kitts and Dominica and Antigua and Barbados and all these countries, St. Lucia, I was just with the prime minister down there talking to them about blockchain solutions to stop, being blocked from these corresponding banks that just freeze everybody's money.
Right.
Right. It's all an interesting thing. And so, whenever somebody, back to the elephant in the room, whenever somebody says, oh, this sounds like some kind of Ponzi pyramid, first of all, your job is a pyramid. I mean, there's a CEO, right? And then there's the president, and there's the vice president, and there's middle management, and then there's the staff, right? And it looks just like a pyramid. The church is a pyramid. Every single organization is a pyramid. Now, what's cool about the decentralized distributed network is there's no kind of hierarchy. Instead of going through these trusted third parties, it's peer-to-peer. So it's kind of like an opposite of a pyramid, if you will. If I had a graph, I could show you the difference between a decentralized, a distributed, and a regular network, if you will, and having all these nodes around. So if one node goes out, it doesn't stop the whole thing. It's kind of like, think about it like this, like Napster. Napster, you could go on and download music and movies, but then after a while, because it was centralized, the government went in and shut it down because, copyright infringement, etc. So they just came in with guns and they stole the servers and no more Napster. Well, then somebody created a file sharing software called BitTorrent, where if you run this software on your computer and I run it on mine, we can share files peer-to-peer with each other, and it doesn't have to have a central point of weakness. It doesn't have to have a data center with servers in it that the government can come and shut down. So as you can imagine, millions and millions of people started running this BitTorrent software, and next thing you know, you can go on Views and Pirate Bay and BT Junkie, and you can download millions of music and movies, and the governments around the world can't stop it because there's no point of weakness, no central point of weakness. And so they can't shut it down. And so now you can download anything you want. Well, the currency that runs on this BitTorrent network is Bitcoin. That's how I understood Bitcoin, because I already got how BitTorrent works and how they're using that to circumvent how Napster was centralized and BitTorrent is not centralized.
Right.
And the currency that runs on it, now we don't have to trust governments or banks to issue the money. It's backed by math. And 2 + 2 will always be 4. We don't have to trust other people like you do with the Federal Reserve that just prints all this money, making all of our money worth less and less and less and less. Inflation is theft. Inflation is a tax. And if you don't want to be stolen from, you have to stop using their money. Right. Which is cool, because now we have a money system that's outside the matrix. It's outside the SWIFT system. And it's really exciting to see. And right now is actually a great time to buy some Bitcoin, because it's come down a lot in its price. It's about $4,000 right now. And it currently
started at what, a penny? Or
pennies. I got my first Bitcoin at 85 cents. So I watched it go to $1 and then to $10 and $100 to $1,000. Now it's $4,000. So I wish I would have bought more than $200 worth.
I wish I would have bought one.
It was over my head. Nobody explained it to me. No one told me what made Bitcoin valuable. Right. They didn't explain to me what the blockchain was. So I didn't really know. I thought it was just digits on a computer, just like everything else. But then once I kind of figured out the blockchain, I was like, oh, this is going to change the world.
Right. So you didn't come up with this. You recognized the value of it and then went into it. I think that's important too, because you're on the internet. It looks like you have something to gain because that you created this. So I think that's pretty funny. Gave you a lot of power.
No, Bitcoin was created by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, who no one really knows who he is. I mean, there's this Australian guy named Craig Wright who claims to be Satoshi, but some people think Satoshi might have been a group of people.
Huh.
I don't really know. And what's cool about it is when you have an idea whose time has come, you can't stop it. No army in the world can stop it.
Right.
And so it's better to have the idea be the leader rather than a person be the leader, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And my sound engineer, Kurt, just pulled up a graphic. I think if you were able to do it, I think this is what you were talking about. It's not a hierarchy, but it's a network system. And so, things can't get, I don't know if you can see it.
I can see it,
you
yes.
Can see it. Is that about right?
Yeah, so a distributed network is better than a pyramid because when you have a pyramid, you have one guy at the top, they take out that one guy at the top, and then the rest of the pyramid collapses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although, a lot of people like the pyramid structure, of course, government does because you can compartmentalize people better. Like the Manhattan Project had thousands and thousands of people working on building the nuclear bomb, and not one of them knew what they were actually working on,
right?
Because they had everybody compartmentalized,
right?
So,
right.
If you want to keep people in the dark, then you go with the status quo. But if you want to have truth and exposure and light, then the blockchain is where it's at.
Right. Absolutely. So we're running out of time, and I do want to tell everybody what you're doing right now, which is pretty cool. But do the comment you did about politics as Americans, because I think this is also, we spend a lot of time arguing right now. We're very divided, whether we're Republican or Democrat, and who's right and who's wrong, and who should have the power and who should not. Your little pun expression I thought was interesting.
I call them demopublicans and republicats because they're two different wings of the same bird of prey. Neither side has any qualms about sticking a gun to your head and stealing your money. It's what do we spend the stolen loot on? Do we spend it on the welfare state or the warfare state? And so I don't want to be part of either side. I want peace and prosperity and freedom. I like the non-aggression principle, which means that you don't use force, fraud, or coercion to get your way, that all human interactions should be voluntary. And that's what I like about Bitcoin. It's a voluntary money. We don't have legal tender laws where we force people to take our funny money fiat that the Federal Reserve prints, that loses value every day. We have a choice. And I think all human interaction should be voluntary. So they call me a libertarian or an anarcho-capitalist, but I'm not really inside a box. I did name my little baby Liberty. And we've been driving across the country with her this week for the last 36 days on Earth. She's only 36 days old, but she's already been to 42 states, and she's going to be the youngest person to have gone to all 50 states in 50 days. That's our slogan. You can follow her at liberty.weeks on Instagram. And it's really exciting being the new daddy and being able to kind of mold my little baby into a leader and teach her how being an entrepreneur works. I mean, she can't even talk yet, but she already got $100 sponsorship from Fleming's the other day to go on her Instagram page and say Fleming's has really good steaks and asparagus and lobster macaroni and cheese. So there she is. They're 1 month old and she's already made $100.
And we know that you didn't actually feed her that.
No. That was
Mom
actually
and Dad.
for Daddy.
Yeah.
For Daddy.
I was gonna say let's put that moose on the table, or we're gonna have some child activists after your butt,
of course.
right?
So she gets breast milk and she gets good goat's milk formula when your mommy doesn't feel like breastfeeding. So
that's great.
That stuff.
And you're on track to get the Guinness World Book of Records for that. And so you can follow Liberty Weeks, who I'm, voting right now to be the next president. Or not next. It'll be a couple more because she's not old enough.
She'll run in 2037.
See, I knew you'd already figured it out. That's so funny. But how do the bottom of the pyramids get into this whole this Freedom Act, I'm going to call it the Freedom Act, because you're not just freeing yourself, you're also freeing other people. So what's the first step?
Well, it depends on what they're looking for. They say a child without health has one dream, and it's to get his health back. A child that's healthy has 500 dreams. And so I would say the first step is to make sure you're healthy, because that's your number one wealth. And that's what helps you think correctly. A lot of people are on all these psychotropic drugs and they're not thinking correctly. They're not sleeping well. They're depressed. Their serotonin's low, or whatever it happens to be. And because of that, they're blind to seeing opportunities or taking action because of fear and self-doubt or whatever it is. So getting healthy mentally and spiritually and physically, and then financially is pretty easy. I mean, you can do that in a number of different things, energy, or join us with Bitcoin. What we're doing is Bitcoin mining, which is kind of like the goose that lays the golden egg. Bitcoin is the golden egg, and mining Bitcoin is the goose that lays the golden egg. And so I teach people how they can do that with us if they want. We've got all types of cool energy tech if you want to get your house off the grid and driving around in a Tesla. The idea is when your energy is free, then your water is free, your food is free, your transportation is free, the heat is free. Everything else becomes free when your energy is free. Mm-hmm. And so if you really want to free humanity, we got to focus on the energy technology too. Yeah. And there's some great stuff out there that is coming to light now with the internet. Lots of inventors that are sitting there building these technologies, and the oil cartel can't stop it. It's great.
Yeah, super. And how do we find you?
You can find me Joby Weeks at Gmail's my email, Joby Weeks at Yahoo or Hotmail. I still got Joby Weeks at AOL. I'm on Joby Weeks at Facebook. I'm on Joby Weeks at Instagram. So you can just type up my name and you'll find me. Yeah. And then we can be friends on Facebook or whatever. I'd love to continue the conversation with you guys there.
Fantastic. And I am so grateful. I'm going to give you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And I don't give all of my guests that, but I love what you're doing. I think it's fabulous. I've always said money's a great thing, and money energy is a great thing. And now we have a way to do good with it. So thank you so much, and have a blast with Liberty. Peace in, peace out to her and the mommy, and love to you all.
Thank you. God bless you, Dr. Marissa. Ciao.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Peace in and peace out. All right. Oh, I forgot. Can you do a peace in, peace out so I can catch it on a print screen? So
peace out.
Do you know what that means? It means world peace through inner peace.
There you go.
There you go. Yay. Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Ciao.
Ciao. All right. And we are at the end of the show. Welcome to my balance bar, where I encourage you to balance. Oh, I forgot to ask him the last question, but that's okay. I am, let's see, holiday shopping in the balanced marketplace. Since it is the season of joy and the season of giving, you could, for only 99 cents, you can get the 21-day Fast from Complaining app, which is great for any of your friends or family who have a proclivity for complaining. And then 8 Ways to Happiness is at all bookstores everywhere. And I'm doing a local book signing. Someone asked me when I was doing a local one on my social media. Hopefully you're listening. I am doing it in Huntington Beach because you asked, at the Timeless Treasures Boutique, December the 19th. I'm also going to be at Chapters Indigo Bookstore in Canada, my birthplace, December 8th, at the Erin Mills Town Center. So join me there. If you share this, please, with anyone who lives there. Sunday, December 9th, speaking at the Center for Spiritual Living. I'll be the main speaker that day, as well as doing a workshop. And then if you are interested in having me come to your town, please book we're setting up 2019 calendar. We're going to be in Washington, D.C. for sure, in Vegas for sure. If you would like me to come to your city, let me know. And if you'd like to have me on the beach and work with me there, learning meditation or my private life balance coaching, special holiday offer, 4 sessions, which is normally quite a bit more, is only $497. That's 80% off. So you can book me for those sessions. Next week, Stay tuned for another scintillating episode of Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. That's world peace through inner peace.
Before the dawn, for I am weak and he is strong. He lifts me